10 greatest all time. We're talking about, we were going to do a little bit of a bonus section here, right? Because after last week's hardy debate here about Kyrie and Scottie Pippen, you got a top five list, is that right for me? Like your top 10 was a little bit time elusive there, which is fine. This is fine. I'm happy to go top five. But then I felt like I had to condense my list a little bit. That was a little bit of a challenge, man. I don't know. Do you want to go first? Do we want to go one at a time? What do you think? What's your thought here? We are talking about greatest sidekicks of all time because, clearly LeBron is Kyrie's greatest sidekick of all time. Um,
Are you deliberately saying stuff to put in a short so we can somehow get look, I'm the reason why I was a little bit time poor. Again, the lack of millions of people promoting me to do this kind of homework leaves it on the back burner, and then time ran away from me. But did give you a top five. I don't know about you, but when I was trying to compile this list and when I was thinking about it, the trap was go straight to titles,
Mhm,
obviously, and the best number two has to have some titles there.
mhm.
And then I kind of viewed it as well, they had to be the second best player on that title team.
No, they
And
did it.
what,
It's a sidekick though. They don't necessarily have to be second best sidekick. So basically,
well,
anyone that's not the
this
best
is the
player.
thing. So, this is the thing. This list that I'm about to give to you is surprisingly quite star studded. And I'll make my case for each of them, but we'll see where we come to. So, we're gonna go 5-1, yeah? We're gonna
Uh,
go that way.
sure, yeah,
That builds the suspense for people, doesn't it?
yeah,
All right.
for
With my
ourselves.
top five, I'm beginning off with Dwayne Wade. So Dwayne Wade was, obviously able to get an individual championship in 2006 with Shaq being his sidekick. But once LeBron came to town, obviously it ended up turning into LeBron's team. And I think Dwayne Wade was phenomenal in those series, still averaging that over 25 and 5 sort of mindset. And really kind of having that clutch gene that we've talked about a little bit that LeBron maybe lacks and able to close some games, close some series for him. Obviously, LeBron was super dominant in that Miami run, but I think it's obviously Dwayne Wade sits as number two for that. So he's my fifth pick.
Well, funny because Dwayne Wade did not make my top five list. Sorry, Dwayne
Oh,
Wade. It was a tough one. What he's got, three rings, and like you said, rings matter.
yeah.
And he obviously was. There's an argument to be made here. Was he a sidekick with that first ring? Yeah, because what was he? Who was he? Shaq's sidekick? Yeah, but but that was
No,
old Shaq. And was that the coming out party that this is Alpha Dwayne Wade? I don't know. That's the argument to be made there potentially. So I have at number five actually another Shaq partner or teammate here, which is Kobe. I have Kobe at number five. Obviously, three rings when Shaq was in his prime, and clearly this is young Kobe, and he was clearly a sidekick for those three-peat that the Lakers put together there in the early 2000s. So, yeah, look, I have him number five. I'm curious if he's on your list at some point.
he's on my list, but he's not at number four. At number four, I'm going to put the all-time leader in 3 points made, Steph Curry. And this is an interesting one, but bear with me here. Bear with me here. Bear with me here, because I hate this. I hate this. I hate this reaction every time I say something, and you never let me get what I need to get out. Steph Curry did not win Finals MVP on 3 of the 4 Finals trips that he's made. The Iguodala one is ridiculous, so that shouldn't count against him. But it's a fact, and you have to introduce facts into the debate. But that little mini dynasty with Kevin Durant, he was the second best player on that team. And I understand that he was pivotal to their culture and everything, and that's how Katie got there. But if we're being to the law, letter to the law here, I'm getting flashbacks to our very first podcast with Westbrook as a winner because of how literal I'm taking this. But Steph Curry was the best number two option on that team, and he
That's a
averaged close to 30 points and phenomenal 3 point shooting. But according to the best sidekick thing, that was his sidekick moment.
that's the worst take I've ever heard from you, and you've had some terrible takes.
Oh, get out of here!
Steph Curry as a number two option. Did you omit the fact that he also won two MVPs? Sure, he did not
There's other
win.
MVPs. Hold on.
He
There's
did.
other MVPs on this list.
Yeah, but
If you don't
no,
want
what I'm
number
trying
four,
to
you're not
say
going to
here is
like
that you're
MVP.
you're you're trying to use the narrative that he didn't win three NBA finals out of the four. So therefore, he's a sidekick. Yet two of those seasons he won MVP. Yeah. Um, and he was utterly dominant. And you could say that Iguodala robbed him of that MVP, which was a wholly, sort of,
A whole other
a
conversation.
whole other sort of situation. But that Iguodala's stats were not significant in that sort of sense, but was his contribution in the box score, plus minus, etc., influential? Perhaps so. I think, and at the end of the day, if you want to say Steph Curry was a sidekick to KD, yeah, if you want to say Steph Curry was a sidekick to KD, sure, but that only yielded two rings. So I think trying to put Steph Curry at any point in his career or any significant point in his career as a sidekick, you're, you're pushing a fine line here, which is funny because I have another Golden State Warrior here at number four. Yeah, and you're probably already going to think about that name in your head, and you're going to say, surely he's not going to say Draymond Green, because I'm saying Draymond Green is number four, the best sidekick in the last, what are you talking about here, 30 years? Yeah, that we're sort of looking at right now, because that's roughly how long we've been alive to watch the NBA. that that without him, the Warriors wouldn't have had four. Yeah, and it's not because obviously he scores a lot, anything like that, but he's been the catalyst of a sidekick in playing a role player in those four rings for the Warriors. Okay, and I think, and I thought about this, I think he is more important than Clay. And without Clay, sure, they lose that edge and they lose that second Hall of Famer. Absolutely, Clay's going to be a Hall of Famer. Yeah, that's the reality. Okay, but Draymond is still more important than Clay. And look, if you took Clay out and when KD came across here, so we're talking Steph, KD, and Draymond, that's probably still enough to win a ring.
Do you notice the difference between the two of us when you say something ridiculous that I at least let you go, versus when I say something ridiculous, you kind of
Excuse me, are you
interject?
saying that Draymond is a ridiculous pick? Please, please, please break it down.
Obviously, Draymond has a really important role to play. I just think the conversation around him is different. I don't think he's a sidekick, so to speak. I'd almost put him in that Swiss Army knife conversation. All right. Because the thing is, with basketball, there's four players that are technically your sidekick, right? Assuming that they played at the second best of potential. I
Yes,
think with Draymond, Draymond is in the Dennis Rodman tier, right? Dennis Rodman was important to the Bulls and important to the Pistons,
he was,
but
he was a sidekick though.
no,
Rodman's a
everyone's
sidekick,
a sidekick by that logic. Okay,
but
we're
they
not talking
are,
about
they
the
are.
extended DC universe here, where it's not just a Robin, but it's
There,
also
there,
Catwoman and it's
you're
also
talking about there are when there's five players on the floor and you've got
yep.
one number one option, then there's four
Then
sidekicks.
why is the
Yeah,
KD pick back? Why is the KD pick back? Because KD was the best player on the floor, so Steph Curry is by default
but that
a
only yielded
sidekick,
two rings.
according to your own
That
logic.
only yielded two rings.
That's fine. That's enough for my list. All right, let's do number three. Number three, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant for me because he has three championships in this sidekick tallying system. And obviously, a young, non prime Kobe hanging out with Shaq at his ultimate dominance. Could have had four, but at that point, was he the better player of the two? Obviously, Kobe probably got carried to that first one and then ends up kind of coming into his own for two and three and goes on to obviously win his own individual ones. And funnily enough, was an MVP, but still was a sidekick according to your own logic. So you've already made the case for Kobe at five. I put him at three. I think we're already in
Hey,
chronic disagreement
I
here.
forgot I
But
forgot how much fun it was making top 5 or 10 lists with you, man. It's been a little while here because at number three I have someone that has more rings than Kobe here. I believe he has five, count them on his finger, including one Finals MVP. Talking about Tony Parker.
okay,
I'm talking about Tony
okay,
Parker. Clearly, he's a
okay,
sidekick to Tim Duncan. I don't think you're gonna
yep.
debate that one too hard.
I'll debate it a
And
little bit.
and then you'll probably go like Ginobili was more important.
Yeah, Ginobili, man.
And look, at the end of the day, I think he was a huge part of the Spurs dynasty there. And yeah, look, I got Tony Parker at three. You tell me why that's not a good pick.
It's not a good pick because I guess the Spurs maybe you know what actually I understand the pick. It's probably similar to how we discussed the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors were a dynasty, right? Stretched over a good period of time, probably close to 10 years. And different people at different stages fill different roles, right? So when I reference Steph Curry being the 1B to Kevin Durant, that's a different role than when he was the 1A, right? And Iguodala gets a finals MVP because of his specific role. Klay Thompson always doing his thing, Draymond doing his thing. Even Wiggins was in that conversation for the last one. I think the problem with the Spurs, Ginobili is a conversation piece, but for one of those championships, Kawhi was the talking point as well. And then David Robertson, not that he was around during Tony Parker's run, but he was a part of it as well. And the role players that come in for San Antonio, I think the hard part with them, in terms of, I think we've lost our sidekick conversation. I thought we were picking Robins. I thought we were picking guys that if Batman dies, Robin's going to carry you there. And yet we're just naming anybody in the extended universe at
No,
this
no, no,
point.
no. I think you are you know what? This is where you needed to give me a page of terms and conditions on what we're picking here. Because I was like, is this a number two option or is this a sidekick? And as far as I'm concerned, a number two option, there's only one number two option because then I guess there's a number three, number four, number five option on the floor. Okay, at least, yeah. But a sidekick is anywhere from two to five. And you make the argument about Kawhi was probably the number two option for that last ring that the Spurs won. I'm probably not going to debate that. Yeah, but for at least, I'm just trying to think back here, four out of the five that they won, you'd have to say Tony Parker was probably number two. I don't know. You could probably then make an argument was Ginobili like more influential in one of those series or not? Maybe. So then maybe you could say three. I don't know. See, that's the part where it's really interesting point, which is then now where you would make you then you could probably have a much greater case that Kobe moves up that list even higher because it's really really clear. Because it's the same point like you chose Dwayne Wade. And I'm sort of saying that I took him off my list. He did not make my top five because you could argue that that first ring he won, he was not a sidekick. He was just clearly a sidekick to LeBron, not to Shaq.
They're all valid points, right? And we didn't specify the terms and conditions. And unsurprisingly, maybe this is, maybe if someone was willing to give us a breakdown of like, where do we go wrong as a podcast, trying, maybe it's because we don't have strong terms and conditions on our top 5 or 10 lists that we
Well, like
do from
Michael
time to time.
Jordan, we don't give a shit.
Are you're getting your shorts? Sorry, my bad. You're getting your shorts ready. I'm gonna come in with number two here, and I think I'm going to need you to mute yourself because I don't think you're going to be able to contain it here.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
worried
Come,
that you're
come
going
on, come on, come on. I'm gonna have an outburst.
to.
Hold on, like, come on, quick. I'm
You're
sitting
going to have an
down.
outburst. So, unsurprisingly, with how my list is operated here, Dwayne Wade, Steph Curry, obviously being good enough to lead their team to a championship, but then sometimes not. My number two best sidekick, specifically on a couple of seasons, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar because it was Magic Johnson's team for the entire of the 80s. And I know that Kareem individually did some very significant things. Unstoppable shot, all-time leading scorer until last season. 6 rings, was the GOAT conversation prior to LeBron coming along, but he was not the best player on that team several times. And also a very stacked team, similar to how we talked about Golden State and San Antonio as well. So I'm putting him, funnily enough, number two as the number two best player.
How many games did you watch Kareem play?
How many games did I watch Kareem play?
Yeah.
Like in person, in
Uh,
real life,
how about real time?
in real time? You wouldn't believe it, but it's going to come out at a solid zero.
I thought we weren't going that far back, but hey, sure.
I've gone that far back.
If you've just gone back to the way back machine here and into the archives to pluck Kareem out of that list, I feel like there's probably a whole bunch of Celtics that probably qualify as sidekicks. In the Larry Bird era, just like you could call every teammate of Magic Johnson a sidekick in that sort of sense. Probably not going to argue that. How influential they were or impactful in those sort of eras for these championship teams, man, I don't know because I paid no attention. So, look, good on you, man. You're going back into history there. I had no reaction because I was trying to even recall who that player was, but that's okay. Kareem, yeah, I do know who he is because I have at number two Scottie Pippen. At number two, Scottie Pippen Clearly
Oh,
six
okay.
rings, clearly a sidekick, clearly number two option. Probably can't debate it too hard that he should be on this list. You have him at number one. So
Yeah, I
now
do.
the only mystery here is that who do I have at number one? But hey, look,
Well,
you tell me like you
let's
tell me why Scottie Pippen is number one for you? Yeah, he's just because surely.
let's let's really unpack that because you're obviously talking about the guy that had six rings, double dynasty there, and wasn't able to do it individually. So clearly the number two option,
Mhm, mhm.
the entire time. Um, yeah, yeah. I actually don't know what you're gonna add. I don't know what you're gonna add, so I'm gonna go.
Would you so you throw it back to me now? Is that what you're trying to say? Is that you throw it back to me right now?
Yeah,
Okay, at number one, do you know who I'm gonna say here? I'm just curious. Can you tell me? Do you know where I've trended towards here, and who I've got number one? I'm just curious. Like, there's not. It's let's be clear. I didn't pick like I don't know.
we haven't went back to the 50s clearly, so I am curious.
Fine. At number one, as the most important sidekick in the last 30 years that I have watched is someone that has seven rings. Big
Ah,
Shot
all right.
Rob.
Yeah, okay.
Big
All
Shot
right.
Rob Horry was part of three, you could almost say, eras of NBA championships with the Rockets, all right, with the Lakers, and with the Spurs. And without him and his moments, yeah, he's not just, oh my God, I was highly fortunate that I ended up as a 10th option on these teams and won a whole bunch of rings. All right, he was a core rotational player, therefore making him a sidekick. Was he number two? No, but that's clearly an area here we didn't define specifically. And he was a sidekick in all of his career. Literally, he was never number one. Yeah, at any point. But he was not only in the right teams, but he also contributed in the right moments. And to me, if we're making this list here of the most important sidekicks, I have Rob Horry at number one.
I can see that. I think maybe I went for like I'm drafting a talented team of top five players, and that's why I ended up with that. And Robert Horry did make the list, but you're right. Like Robert Horry did it on multiple teams. But I do worry that he's more like a role player. But again, this really brings into the integrity of our list because this is all about what qualifies as a sidekick. So
What qualifies as a sidekick? It's just not your best player on the team. And today you dropped a huge doozy there. Like Steph Curry was not the best player on his team. My God, I can't. I I found that a very interesting take, especially when you tried to include the pre or post KD days. I see you got
I
nothing
got
left to say.
knowing what I said,
That's
man.
it,
I
we're
said
done.
like
See you when the finals are rolling around. All right.